Affordable housing has been a hot topic in Boise, in Ada County, in the Treasure Valley, and in all of Idaho for a few years now. The problem? Well, not enough of it to go around. Not only the cost of the house or apartment, but a lot of times the cost to just get in one. Application fees and deposits. It's become such a problem. Back in 2019, the city of Boise passed an ordinance that put a cap on application fees at $30. It's a welcomed relief for those looking for a place to live, for sure. Well, there's a bill in the State House right now that would undo that. And we've heard from a lot of you this week, very much against it. But what's the reasoning behind it? We asked that question and others of the bill's sponsor, Representative Joe Palmer. Here's Joe Paris.
House Bill 442 has created a lot of conversation this week at the Capitol and online. There is a lot of questions, so let's get into it. For starters, bill sponsor Representative Joe Palmer explains what the bill does.
All the bill basically does is goes along with, I believe, what was the bill's original intent, is to keep government out of the business of renting properties.
Representative Palmer highlights that under current Idaho law, the government cannot regulate rent prices. The proposed bill would simply add to that, preventing the government from regulating fees or deposits for residential rental properties.
Government cannot step in and tell you what to rent your property for, but they can adjust any fees or deposits. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think business needs to make those decisions for themselves.
It's also about consistency across Idaho, Palmer says.
Currently, we have certain cities that are doing certain things at different prices. And, really, if a city is charging a fee, they really should be just charging a fee of what it costs them to do the fee. They shouldn't be making money off any fees. And so they're doing all kinds of licensing and that kind of thing. This is, how do you regulate the different types of things that they're doing? And this is one thing that I just don't think that they should be involved with regulating.
Critics of the bill say it puts renters in a tough spot, especially low-income renters. In Boise, for example, there's a rule that rental applications must be capped at $30. This legislation would remove that cap and any cap like it. Palmer says he understands that point, but that recent growth has made this a supply and demand issue, not a rental fees issue.
The supply and demand it's the problem. We have the demand right now. We just can't build them fast enough. People are building apartments as fast as they can. And as they come here, as long as regulations are few and far between, they're going to continue to grow and build whatever product people are going to buy, whether it be an apartment for rent or anything.
I asked Representative Palmer about concerns that his bill could promote price gouging or unfair renting practices. Palmer says there will always be bad actors out there. We know that, and they need to be addressed, but outside of this legislation. He adds that he's open to taking on price gouging.
If a bill is brought to me that helps to protect people, that is not regulatory on somebody, absolutely, I would be happy to look at that. As far as price gouging, you are going to have bad players that do certain things.
Palmer says he has heard criticism on the bill, but says he's also had support from constituents who say rental caps make running their rentals difficult in terms of keeping up with costs.
A constituent of mine called me up, was very happy that I was running this bill, and said, I have 4 rentals inside Boise. I paid $90 a piece for every one of them for the background checks.
Palmer says to him, this is about keeping government out of business. He says alongside the topic, he knows Idaho needs to keep up with growth by creating more housing and staying attractive to newcomers.
It's just that easy. Anytime you see more regulation, businesses go away from it because it costs them more to make their profits.
All right, Joe, we know price gouging is a hard thing to prove, but that's something you could deal with on a different topic or different day. But this bill, similar bill, was brought forth last legislative session, derailed because the person that brought it forward had some connection to rental property, therefore had a vested interest in it. What are the chances that's happening now?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of questions on social media that we've got. People saying, well, does Representative Palmer, does he have residential rentals that he's trying to, get in for himself? And I asked Representative Palmer, and he told me he does not own or operate any residential properties that would be rented out for tenants or anything like that. He tells me that as a businessman, he and his family, they have some commercial properties. But he was very clear to me, Brian, when I asked him this, he said, this isn't about supporting himself. This isn't about a business that he's really involved in. He tells me that to him, this is about keeping government out of business. And he also says it's about cleaning up the Idaho law that says the government cannot be involved in talking about rental prices. He believes it should extend to fees as well.
Okay, so basically he's just calling it a clerical bill, as you said, right?
Yeah, he really says he's cleaning up the language here of the Idaho bill, and he really believes that the intent, when it was drafted originally, was to keep the government out of renting. He thinks that this was an oversight. He says he simply wants to fix the language in that. He says to him, this isn't about anything other than that.
All right, thank you very much, Joe.